All right, so right now I will pass the word for Mr. 𝗁𝗶𝗰𝗀, who is our chairman of Curaçao Chamber.
Thank you, 𝗁𝗶𝗃𝗃. Montari Turende. Good afternoon, everybody. Great that you can join us. Like 𝗁𝗶𝗃 said, try to make use as much as possible of our webinars. They're free of charge. You get a lot of information that helps you with your business. And everybody thinks doing business is easy. It's not. There's a lot you have to take care of, and we'll give you the information that you need. So we're back again with Colombia. Colombia is a country of about 45 million inhabitants. And 𝗁𝗁𝗁 will give you all the information about the country. But about 5 or 6 years ago, we decided the chamber not only to promote export to different countries. And we wanted to concentrate mostly in the countries that are close to us, which is Colombia is one. The other one is Panama. And we also did Brazil. But Colombia has been very active. There's a Holland House in Colombia that was initiated together with the chamber. Chamber was one of the partners that started with the Holland House. And it's a combined Chamber of Commerce, Colombia and the Kingdom, where you as an entrepreneur in the Kingdom have the opportunity to get information and try to see if Colombia is a country for you to do business. There's a lot of opportunity there. You will hear that today. After this, we'll have a digital mission that we're planning probably in a month or two. And then we're going to have a physical mission sometime in September. If you are interested, please make sure you join us. The people at Holland House Colombia know precisely where to help you with, for you to get in touch with the people you need in the market so that you can offer your services or your products. Again, success today, and you're in good hands with the staff at the chamber and of course, 𝗁𝗁𝗁 from Holland House. Thank you and have a good afternoon.
Thank you, Mr. 𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗀, for the great words for our entrepreneurs or future entrepreneurs. And right now, I will pass the word for Mr. Jan Willem van Bokhoven, who will give you more information about Colombia.
Thank you, 𝗁𝗶𝗃𝗃. Good afternoon to everybody. Thank you very much, 𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗃, for the kind words of introduction. Very happy to do this webinar today. I hope this year to visit Curacao again, to be able to do this kind of events also at the chamber itself. But I think also in a digital way has been working quite well. I think besides all the challenges we have had, if I look back at the past 2 years, we have done several webinars together with the Chamber of Commerce Curacao to promote the business opportunities and to actually give a roadmap to benefit from the opportunities. And actually, although traveling has been more limited, even to countries nearby, such as Colombia, great things have happened in the past years, in the past 2 years. So for today, thank you very much for joining. Thank you very much for taking the time to learn a little bit more about Colombia, what we do, of some of the initiatives that are coming up. So thank you once again for joining and for the chamber for having us. I have a presentation that will take probably about 40 minutes. Please, if any questions, just use the chat function. I will try to explain or answer your questions during the presentation, but I would also be pleased to have a discussion and to have a very interactive Q&A at the end. I think these kind of sessions, I can give you a lot of information, but I prefer to focus very much on answering your questions, because everyone is in a specific business or is thinking of a specific opportunity. To answer the first question very well, we are going to share the presentation with everybody. The presentation has no secrets, so please be assured that we will share the presentation afterwards with everybody. Let's continue to the next slide, please. So some words about the Holland House Colombia. We have been here for almost 10 years, working from Bogota, Medellin. Almost 10 years. That's also the moment I came to Colombia. seems a long time ago. That was also the moment I met 𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗀, I met 𝘁𝗵𝗁𝗁 and the whole team of the chamber, because actually on the first day that we started as Holland House, they said, we want to be involved. We want this to be also the way we increase business between Curacao and Colombia. So they have been very much involved from day one. And actually, although the name might not be that well chosen, of course, marketing wise, it has worked very well, Holland House, but we are also very much aimed at helping a lot of companies and entrepreneurs from Curacao. So that's what I want to show on this slide. Today, we are one of the biggest bilateral chambers of commerce in Colombia. So we are very well positioned. We have a very unique concept. If I would have to explain in a few words, we are not only focused on helping the existing business, so existing companies that are already active in Colombia, but we are very much focused on helping new companies, new entrepreneurs, new initiatives to take the step successfully. So we are most of all focused on helping a lot of new companies that want to become active here, are not active yet, and we help them to become successful here. We have 325 members at the moment, of which 25 from Curacao, which is a very considerable number. Actually, recently, at the end of last year, we did a small study looking at all the kingdom chambers in the world, and we actually concluded that probably the bilateral chamber in Colombia is the biggest one. And the only reason, or one of the main reasons I have to explain that, is that we have the kingdom factor much more than others. We have Curacao, Aruba, nearby neighboring countries, a lot of trade. And of course, our colleagues in Indonesia or in Dubai don't have that. So that's a very big added value we have, and that actually makes us very active and also one of the biggest worldwide. Already mentioned, we have a strong relationship with the chamber, and we actually became a few years ago the first accredited chamber worldwide, because today there's a system to actually do the accreditation for bilateral chambers, and this was the first one to obtain that certification. The next one, please. Oh, here are some of the members. Like I mentioned, we have 325 members. What they have normally in common is that they are already active in Colombia, so they successfully took the step. You will see that it's very diverse. It's multinationals, it's SMEs, it's companies from all kinds of sectors, from agriculture to the health sector to, for example, also IT. So it's very diverse. It's also diverse. It's Dutch companies, it's companies from Curacao, it's companies from Aruba, it's also Colombian companies that export products to the kingdom. So it's quite diverse. This is just to give you an idea of who is member of our organization. The next one. Well, then, besides, some of the sheets have some Spanish words. That's if I would do this presentation in the Netherlands, that would be a problem, but I know here it isn't. So some of the sheets you will find the information in Spanish, but I know for you that's okay. Here are some of the companies we work with, mainly Colombian companies that are also expanding worldwide, because we don't only focus on helping Dutch or Curacao-based companies in Colombia, we are also helping Colombian companies that want to take the step to international markets. And I think that's where there is still a huge potential, a huge opportunity for some of you that have joined today. Colombia has a lot of companies that internationally are not really active yet, but do have the products, do have the services, but they don't have the experience. Here are some of the examples of some of the great companies we are working with, but there's many more. And what they have in common is that they are all looking to take the step to international markets successfully, but sometimes are not being able to do that by themselves. The next one. Well, then a little bit about what has happened. I remember very well when we started in 2013. I also planned a trip to Curacao very soon, and then together with with 𝗁𝗶𝗃𝗃 and Stephen Damiana and all the other colleagues at the chamber, we started to promote opportunities in Colombia. I remember very well that in the beginning, there was quite some skepticism or maybe even fear. Colombia, a very big country. We are a small country. What do we have to offer? Is there really an opportunity for us? So we started to promote that we do believe that there is a role to play for Curacao. There is a role to play for companies from Curacao in this huge market that is the Colombian market. So we started to, bit by bit, we started implementing different types of initiatives. And here you will find some. We have organized over 10 trade missions to the different cities in Colombia, not only to Bogota and Medellin, but precisely also to Barranquilla or to Cartagena, coastal cities, Caribbean cities, much alike in many of their consumer patterns to Curacao. So we have organized several trade missions, always together with the chamber. We have had over 15 Curacao companies that today have an office here, today employ people in Colombia, which is a very good signal of their sales and of their expansion. Some of them even have more than 10 employees today in Colombia, which was unthinkable maybe a few years ago, but today is happening. We have had about 160 Curacao-based entrepreneurs who have shown new interest in the Colombian market in the past years. Today we have over 70 participants, I see. So hopefully of those 73 that are on my screen, hopefully 20 or 10 or 30 of you want to really work the opportunities in the Colombian markets together with us in the period to come. I already mentioned it. There's a lot of interest from Colombian companies in Curacao, in the Caribbean. Caribbean also for Colombian companies is like the first markets they find when they start to expand, maybe the neighboring countries or the Caribbean, and they will find Curacao. So it's also a lot of interest from Colombia in exploring opportunities in Curacao and through Curacao. And through Curacao, I will explain that a bit later on, but would mean that you would help them also get to other markets in the Caribbean or even in Europe or in Northern America. And last year, also important, we started or we continued to innovate. Last year, we organized the first digital trade mission from Curacao to Colombia. So we said we want to make it very accessible for Curacao companies to become active in Colombia. And we're going to organize a digital mission in which we are going to connect them with buyers, with partners, with clients that could buy their products or services in Colombia. Very successful, very innovative. And I'm coming back to that also a bit later on. The next one. Well, then, like I said, some of the sheets have some Spanish words. I think before talking about the Colombian economy, I think it's important to give you an idea of the current relationship between Curacao and Colombia. If we talk about trade, if we talk about investment, how is the relationship today? These are the statistics of 2021. So last year, Colombia exported to Curacao for a little more than $28 million. And if you look at the right side of the image, then you will find the main products that Colombia exported to Curacao. Before, oil and gas was the main group. It still is, but today it's much more diverse than a few years ago. You will find fruits, you will find coffee, you will also find building materials, you will find food products. So it's already more diverse, but believe me, there's a lot more Colombian products that are looking to also get to Curacao and through Curacao to other markets in the Caribbean. And that means that if you talk import-wise, for Curacao, Colombia is the 7th partner. And if you talk about exports from Curacao to Colombia, Colombia is market number 14. And market number 14, that's where I think 𝗁𝗶𝗃𝗃 and I can agree that that is not okay. We believe that Colombia should be one of the main countries in which there is much more exports from Curacao. Of course, in specific sectors, and of course, Colombia is a market with a lot of competition, and we have a lot of very good companies here. But still, Colombia being such a big country, Curacao being so nearby, with a lot of innovative companies or companies that buy products from Europe that also could work here very well. At least Colombia should be in the top 10. The next one. So that's what we are working on, and that's what we need to work on with you. And that's why we do this kind of webinars. That's why we do the digital missions, we do the trade missions, because we believe that many more companies should take the step to Colombia. This is the historical trend. So I already mentioned last year it was a bit more than $28 million. You can see that it's been more or less constant. Of course, 2020 we had a drop because of the pandemic and because of the tourism that didn't come to the island. But it's been quite constant, which is a good thing, but also a bad thing, because I think these figures, 28 million, could be much higher. So on the right side, you will find the main departments in Colombia exporting to Curacao. You will find for example, what you would expect a little bit. So the big cities, Bogota, Medellin, but also the coastal provinces that export quite a lot of products to Curacao. Let's continue. Services exports. I don't have a chart, unfortunately. I would love to have one, but the problem is that neither the Colombian tax authority or the customs authority nor the Curacao information gives a lot of detail about services. We do have an idea of the services that we think could be attractive both ways, and that's precisely on this sheet. So I don't have the statistics, because internationally getting figures about export of services is quite hard. It's normally not that well documented as the exports of goods. But here you will find the main opportunities we see. On the upper side, you will see the opportunities for Curacao in Colombia, which is actually the part we prefer to focus on, because we hope more companies from Curacao actually sell something here. But of course, it could also be an opportunity for more companies from Colombia to sell to Curacao and through Curacao to other countries in the region. But if we look at the upper side, then you will find the products that we have most seen in past years. So products from Curacao and services that we have seen that work. A lot of in the personal care sector, we have seen quite a lot of products, but also in the beverages market, innovative food products that maybe you do not produce, but you buy them from Europe, but you also have the exclusivity to sell those same products, food products or beverages in Colombia. That happens a lot. And that's an opportunity. You become the middleman for selling those products also here in the very big Colombian market. And then on the right side, there's the services part. And I think everything related to knowledge in the tourism sector has been working very well. Colombia is very ambitious, wants to become one of the tourism countries in Latin America. We want to, it's one of the future sectors of these economies, but there's still a lot of schooling, a lot of knowledge missing. So there's an opportunity. Of course, IT, we see quite a lot of IT companies from Curacao that are active here, the financial sector, the maritime sector. So those would be the main sectors in which we see a lot of activity. On the bottom part, you will find the Colombian products that have a lot of interest in Curacao. From food products to agricultural commodities to the textile sector, also very active sector, a lot of interest in the Caribbean. Then there's the bio products, and of course also everything a bit more related to industrial supplies. Those would be the main products. And I want us to focus one moment on the bottom part. So if we talk about investment, so this is talking about trade, what is happening. So there's more exports from Colombia to Curacao than from Curacao to Colombia. We want to grow both. And these are the sectors in which we see a lot of opportunity. But talking about investment, then we see quite an interesting tendency. If we look at 2021, the figures have just been published. There was almost 100 million US dollars investment from Colombia in Curacao, which is quite a significant number. That's if we compare to pre-pandemic, that's like 400 or 500% growth. So investments from Colombia and Curacao is growing, and growing a lot, and that's a very good tendency, because of course we also want to promote investments. The investment from Curacao in Colombia is rather limited, but there is of course some investment. But of course for us, in the end, if you talk about promotion activities, we have also been promoting together with the chamber that more Colombian companies actually don't only sell on or through Curacao, but also make an investment, and that's bit by bit. That is happening, so that's a good thing. The next one. Well, here, if you talk about, so the last one was investment from Curacao in Colombia and sales from Curacao in Colombia. This is just to show you that there are companies, and there's actually much more than these, that have taken the step successfully. So here you will find some examples. You will probably all know one of them, or I think some of them might even be here today. So this is just to give you an idea. So from airlines to IT companies to companies from the financial sector, companies providing communication equipment, services to data centers, and even software providers, for example, for car rental companies. So that's to give you an idea that sometimes the impression is that maybe there are no success stories. There are, and there actually are much more than 10 years ago, much more than 5 years ago. And that's, of course, a lot of hard work by these companies. And of course, we are there to help them. But we hope this kind of webinars reaches new companies that also want to take the step they took a few years ago. The next one. Well, then I've talked about the Holland House. I've talked about our relationship with Curacao. I've been trying to show that there's much work to do. So we are not where we want to get, but there is a lot of progress, and there is a lot of very interesting developments, very positive developments. But at this point, I would like to zoom in on the Colombian economy to give you an idea of this country. I know many of you have been here, many of you know Colombia very well, but I want to give you basic information of this country and what is happening and what makes it actually a very attractive country for many companies from Curacao, but of course also from the Netherlands or from the rest of the world. I would say that if I talk about the 5 main reasons why Colombia is an attractive country, it's summarized here. So it's quite a diverse country. If you look at economic sectors, it is very strategically located with access to both oceans as part of the central part of the Pacific Alliance. The Pacific Alliance is the trade bloc between Mexico, Colombia, Peru, and Chile. Colombia is very well located in the center. Colombia is a very open and stable economy. We have been growing for many years in a continuous way. Colombia has free trade agreements with almost all the big countries or the big trade partners in the world. So it's a very open country in a continent where that has not been the case in other countries, Brazil, Argentina, Venezuela, of course, countries that have been bit more protectionistic than Colombia. Colombia's borders are open. Colombia is interested in having trade with the rest of the world. So that really helps. And of course, the 5th one is also a very interesting one. Colombia is also becoming a modern economy. Colombia is very much focusing on being a tech giant of the future. So there's a lot of startup, there's a whole ecosystem in place, which actually is working quite well. So about these 5 factors, I'm going to detail a little bit more to give you a bit more information. Of course, you should be aware that Colombia is a great country. It's still an emerging economy. So that means that we have all the good things of an emerging economy, but we also have all the bad things. So that means that this country is still in development, which means that there's still a lot of social differences. There is, of course, there is corruption. There is still a long way to go for this country to be really a Western country. But there's of course a lot of progress today. Colombia is part of the OECD. But please keep into account that Colombia is developing, but it's still an emerging economy, which has all the good but also all the things the country is still working on. The next one, please. Talking about population, we are a bit more than 50 million persons today, a lot of growth. And I think one of the main elements to keep into account, which make this country very unique compared to other economies, is that it's still a very young country. So still around 50% of the population is 30 years or below. So that makes this country a very young country with a labor force that is much bigger than, for example, in Europe. The next one, please. Well, then about the economic growth. Of course, talking about economic growth in pandemic times is sometimes a bit, well, it doesn't show the whole picture. Colombia in 2021 grew with more than 10%, grew 10.6%. So that's a huge growth. But of course, in the year before, 2020, there was a big drop because the pandemic hit really hard here as well. So growing when you had such a big drop is, of course, much easier. But the recovery is very constant. The recovery is very positive here. But I prefer to not talk about the figure for 2021 because that's a little bit what sometimes is being done, for example, by promotion agencies. The message is Colombia was among the 5 fastest growing countries in 2021. That's true because 10.6%, that's of course, that brings you to that kind of rankings. But of course, it's not the whole picture. So I prefer to have a slide showing a bit the development in a much longer period of time. So this is 50 years. And this is 50 years if you see the factor increase of the GDP. And then you see that in the case of Colombia, it's almost 7 times the GDP when compared to the GDP we had here 50 years ago. And that's compared to the other countries in the region. And then you see that Colombia has grown faster than other countries in the region. The next one, please. And the next element that I mentioned is the openness. Colombia has had governments open for trade, open for the world for many consecutive years. And that's what you see here. If you look at a lot of indexes that exist here, there's only some of them. But if you look at the indexes, we see that we have an open economy, we have a very good corporate government, a very good financial system, a very stable financial system. So that's just to give you an idea that it's an open country where you're well protected as an international company. The next one. And that's also what we see here. There's of course a lot of indexes, there's investment in the different countries of the region, but there's also the FDI, foreign direct investment restriction index, which gives an idea of how easy is it to invest in a country and how well am I protected as a foreign investor in a country. And this is where Colombia ranks. So in Colombia, you are very well protected. And even when you compare that to the United States or to Canada, we are doing very well. That doesn't mean that we don't have bureaucracy or that it's always easy to have employees in Colombia, because of course that brings challenges as well. But at least if you look at how well are you protected and how easy is it, then we are doing very well as a country. The next one. Well, here you see actually the investment figures when comparing Colombia to other developing economies in the world. So this gives an idea where we stand. We are, of course, there are many countries that receive more investment than Colombia, but there is a lot of positive developments. Today, we are in the same group as Vietnam, the United Arab Emirates, South Korea, Turkey. So that gives you an idea that this country today is quite attractive for a lot of foreign investors. And also a big change is that a few years ago, and then I'm talking about basically 10 years ago, a lot of the foreign investment in Colombia was in the oil and gas and mining industries. So very much focused on fossil fuels. While today the investment in Colombia is much more in agricultural sector, infrastructure, health sector, the creative industry. So today that investment is very much directed to other sectors, and that's what you find in the bottom part when we see the 78.8%, which is to show you that today the investment in Colombia is much different than a few years ago. The next one, please. Well, this is also what I already mentioned, but to make it more graphic, so Colombia has a lot of free trade agreements with almost all the main markets in the world. So with the European Union, with the United States, with South Korea, of course, with the countries in the region, with the Pacific Alliance. So Colombia very well connected and with a lot of competitive advantages when you talk about trade barriers and access to markets. With Curacao, there's a partial agreement, which means that also for many products, both ways, there is actually a preferential status, which also helps to improve trade between Curacao and Colombia. The next one. And then talking about, if you remember the first sheet, then the fifth one was the startup and incubation ecosystem that we have here. Colombia is one of the leaders in the region. A lot of innovation, a lot of companies being born here. This is just to give you an idea. On the left side, you will find the growth of investment of the capital market aimed at startups. You see the growth. You see the difference between 2019 and 2021. You see there's a big difference. You see that if you look at the top 10 of startups in Latin America, you will find 2 that are actually from Colombia. And also in some of the others, there's a little bit of Colombian influence. So also, I know for many companies and entrepreneurs from Curacao, this ecosystem is also very interesting because you are looking to connect with this ecosystem, or you have services that you could provide them, or they are looking for capital on the international market and you could help provide that, or they could actually also expand to the Caribbean. So this group of startups actually makes Colombia a very interesting market for many Curacao entrepreneurs. We have seen a lot of dynamics there. So that's why I also included it. The next one, please. Well, then we have talked a bit about the Colombian economy. I think before skipping to this part, which is actually the central part of the presentation, to talk a bit more about how can we develop the opportunities. I think also talking about Colombia and Colombian economy, of course, probably one of the questions you have, because I've had them in previous webinars these weeks, is Colombia has started the year very well. We are recovering from the pandemic quite well. There's economic growth. There's not many restrictions. There is every time more flights between Curacao and Colombia. We now have a lot of airlines that actually fly between Curacao and Colombia, actually much more than pre-pandemic. So there's a lot of good things. But of course, the biggest uncertainty that we have for this year is the elections. This year we have presidential elections in Colombia. taking place in the next months. So we will have a new president. President Duque is not going to continue. So we will have a new president. And well, there's a lot of parties still in the race, but of course you might have heard of Mr. Petro, leftist party that is quite well positioned at this moment. And well, every time more it looks like his competitor could become Mr. Fico because we will probably have 2 rounds, the first round and then the second round to decide who is going to be the president. So we have that uncertainty. I cannot predict what is going to happen, but it's of course Colombia has had governments on the right side for almost 20 consecutive years. So having a leftist government would be a big change. So if Mr. Petro would win the elections, that would mean a big change for the country. And that could, of course, change also a bit the openness Colombia has had for the rest of the world, and trade-wise, investment-wise, that could change. But I also believe that the democratic institutions in Colombia, the way this country works, also the way the parliament has been chosen recently, it would mean a change, but I do believe Colombia will continue the same trend towards the future in many ways, including the relationships with the rest of the world. But I cannot predict, of course, but I think it's important to mention that if you talk about the Colombian economy, we are doing well. There's a lot of positivism, but also this year we will have presidential elections, which is always a moment in which things could change. So also to not forget to mention this to you. Then going back to the presentation, possibilities for Curacao entrepreneurs in Colombia. Like I mentioned, what we do as a Holland House together with the Chamber is promote trade and investment. We do that both ways. So we help Colombian companies that want to become active in Curacao or in Europe, but we also help Curacao companies that want to become active here. And then basically, if you're an entrepreneur or you're looking for a new opportunity and you think, I want to do something with Colombia, but I don't know what I want to do yet, here you'll find the basic directions that you could take. I'm going to talk about all of them, but Curacao Colombian is the market. That would mean that you would source products here, source products or services. So you would buy from Colombian companies, and then you would be the company or the salesman or the intermediate selling those products or services in Curacao. And please, and that's something which I think I cannot stress enough, I think the opportunity is not only Curacao. If you're in Curacao and you can help them sell in your internal market, think big. Think that the same company wants to go to Aruba or wants to go to Dominican Republic, and you can help them do that. You can help them do that, and you can be their support. You can be their partner for the expansion to the whole Caribbean market. So that's the first one. And I think there's a big opportunity there. Then the second one is Colombia is the market. And that's for the companies I showed a few slides back. Colombia is the market. So they are selling products, and in many cases, they are selling services here. If you have a very good product, a very good service that is working on Curacao, that is innovative, and you have the rights for the Colombian market, then you could be the company selling also those products or services here. And the third option is the one that is least or less explored, and that's the Netherlands. Europe is the market. I think if you find Colombian companies with the ambition to go to Europe, many times they don't know how, they don't speak the languages, the step is too big for them, but they do have the product or the service. So if you would think, if you would think big, then you could also think of representing Colombian companies that want to go to the European markets. So that's basically, if you would ask me, where do I find the opportunity? I want to do more with Colombia. I'm interested in doing business with Colombia. This is your basic schedule, your basic mind map that you could use. The next one, please. Well, here it is, the first one. Basically import of goods or services. And again, you could be the hub. I like to use the word hub. In Spanish, that's puente. You could be the puente between Colombia and the region, between Colombia, even farther away, even you could think of Europe in the future. So that's something I think interesting. We are not necessarily promoting that, although I think that's also a very good option. There's a lot of products being produced here that could very well fit within the supermarkets in Curacao, but please also take it bigger or look at it in a bigger way than that. The next one. Then Colombia is the market. So you have something you could sell here. Here are some of the sectors, but remember the slide that I showed you with many more products and services that could work here, but here we'll find also some of the main ones: IT, digitalization, oil and gas, education, financial services, personal care products. So these sectors from Curacao, we have today many examples of companies from these sectors that are successful in Colombia. The next one. I already mentioned it. Think also of export of services, can be products or goods, but probably the most viable, feasible products that you could sell here are services. I think Curacao as a services economy is in many ways more developed still than Colombia, so there could be opportunities here. The next one. And then a bit more the other ones as well. Think of the fact that the Netherlands is a top 3 investor here. So the Netherlands is one of the 3 biggest investors in Colombia and is one of the 5 main destinations for Colombian exports. So the Netherlands for Colombia is very important. If you talk about trade, you talk about Europe, the Netherlands by far is the most important country for Colombians. So that means there's a lot of interest and there's a big line of other companies here that want to take the step, but don't know how, don't have the resources. And that's where you come in. And that's where I think you could have a role, and that's where you could find opportunities. So that's the mind map that I showed you, I think very important. It's not rocket science, but it's a way of finding new opportunities for your company or for your, if you want to start something new, this could be helpful. The next one. What also could be helpful is the digital mission we have from June 7 to June 9, together with the Chamber. Last year we did the first one. I know some of the participants are actually here in this webinar as well. This year we will do the second one, the second digital mission from Curacao to Colombia. For the companies that want to find within the mind map of 3 ways of finding opportunities, if in one of them you see an opportunity for yourself or your company, the digital mission is the way to make that more concrete. Because what does the digital mission do? Prepare you. So we will have sessions like this to prepare you for becoming active in Colombia. But most of all, we will do matchmaking. So we will find the right clients for you. We will find the right customers, or we will find the right investors, or we will find the right suppliers of products if that's what you're looking for. So actually, the digital mission is most of all aimed at preparing, connecting, and also at follow-up. So we will also support you in the follow-up to actually make the opportunities and the contacts to capitalize on them. So that's what the digital mission does. The digital mission for this year has been planned for June 7 to June 9, so 3 days. Part of those days will be used for a lot of appointments that you would have. And of course, the big advantage of digital missions is that, of course, it's not the same as face-to-face meetings, but it's very efficient. It's very efficient. You don't have to travel. You don't have to be here a whole week. The costs are very different because you don't have to buy a flight. You don't have to pay for the hotel. You can eat at home. So there's a big difference in costs. And actually also the cost for participation is only $295 US. I repeat because I didn't say it well, $295 US dollars is the fee to participate in the digital mission. And that's because with the with the chamber, we do our utmost and we do a lot of efforts to actually make it very accessible, very low barrier for more companies from Curacao to become active here. So that's the tariff, the same tariff as last year. Hope many of you will participate. I think it's a great opportunity. Here are some of these sectors, but if your sector is not there, don't worry. We can also include other sectors. Registration is open. We will share you the link for registration also afterwards, so you can actually immediately sign up. And again, if you would prefer to wait for a physical mission, you don't have to wait very long either, because in September, like 𝗁𝗶𝗃𝗃 mentioned, we will also have a physical mission to Colombia. So for the persons that want to do face-to-face meetings, want to travel, can afford the investments that would imply, then there's the physical mission in September. So in that sense, also we see companies that do first the digital mission and then to make things concrete, they also do the, so they start with the digital mission to explore and then they concrete by going with the physical mission. So actually it's not, you can perfectly combine them, but we will start with the digital mission, the second one in June. We will send you also information together with this presentation. The next one. Oh, this is the end of the presentation. So this is the slides I have prepared. Here are all my details of all our social networks as well. If you want to follow us or if you want to connect in any way with us, here are all the details. I think we maybe 𝗁𝗶𝗃𝗃 or Stephen Damiana want to compliment me on certain aspects of the Colombian market or what we have done, and if not, we can also continue to the questions that I have not answered yet.
Thank you, Jan-Willem. I just wanted to put a bridge onto what you indicated about the digital mission. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. As you have heard, there are opportunities to be explored in the Colombian market. So if you decide you want to seriously look into it and connect with decision makers in the Colombian market, this is your opportunity to take the bull by its horns, like they say. Okay? Going on a practical mission is really important to being able to connect with the right potential business partners. In this business mission concept, the intention is for it to be efficient, straightforward, and business focused. It will require an investment, like Jan-Willem indicated, because last year we had a little bit of, because it is a digital mission, there was a misconception that it was for free. But all the preparations, all the efforts to have the right connections for you as a potential business partner will be worth it, because based on our previous experiences, and also like Jan-Willem indicated, the different companies that participated in previous missions, you can see that there is return on investment. We have scheduled this mission 3 months ahead of time, so you are able to take time, prepare, research, check on which are the potential partners you would like to speak to. You can follow up and save up to catch this opportunity. While it is the second time that we will be coordinating a digital mission with Holland House Colombia, it's not the first time they are setting it up for us as Holland House and for Curacao entrepreneurs. We've coordinated business missions like Jan-Willem indicated for consecutive years since 2014, previous to COVID-19. Bringing about results are clear indications for Curacao companies in the Colombian market. It leads also to business opportunities, connections, but also companies having a physical or digital presence in Colombia. The proof of that is the different members that Jan-Willem mentioned, like 25 members, and continuous requests for partnerships or market entries or inquiries over the years on both sides is still a constant flow. Well, last thing, we look forward to welcoming you to the 2022 Curacao Colombia Digital Mission. June 7 to 9, or the physical mission in September. If you have any doubts, don't hesitate to contact Jan-Willem or contact me in order for us to continue the conversation and evaluate your next steps for the Colombian market. Thank you.